prayers that we're collecting, all the different four directions prayers, and that, and make a little folder of those, and then if people like them, they can we'll take them home later as we meet. Yeah, but there's a lot of neat things. Especially, I found a lot of nice stuff, and a lot of good meditations from. It's called the Wellbriety movement. Are you aware of that up there, Diane? Yeah, there's a guy named Don Coyas in Colorado Springs here started a program there many years ago now, and working with people in recovery. And he's got a lot of material, a lot of books on running programs. 12-step program in a native fashion. So the spirituality is really connecting with the native ways, and it's helping people to stay clean. And really, it's really been good. I went up there and studied there, got to meet with them and all. But the Wellbriety, it's called. Uh, you can find their website by going to it's called White Bison. It's pretty cool. They got a lot of resources that you get into. They got women's resources too for treatment and that. White Bison.
All right, you ready to go live, Casey?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. All right, we're live.
All right, welcome everybody to our Monday night meeting of the Good Medicine Way. It's a special time right now. We're into the longest night of the year, and it'll be the shortest day tomorrow. This is a time of really looking and reflecting on the past and then the new. So as we look at the sky tonight too, also on our southwest sky here, we have two planets that are just about completely aligned. But I got the binoculars out and I looked at it a little bit closer. There's about 2 millimeters between them. So that means that they're probably about 3 million miles apart. So it was very cool. And it's so neat that it's lining up tonight with the winter solstice. So tonight I want to introduce a little new prayer that I found on the internet, and we've been making quite a collection of various four directions prayers and native prayers. This one here is called the smudging prayer. Now it's pretty cool. I do different ones myself. I put one together myself, but this will be one that if we are fanning the smoke into the directions, this one here is fanning the smoke onto yourself. Or if you are doing a ceremony and you're smudging somebody that's in front of you. So here's the words to it, and we can probably even put those online later. The smudging prayer. May your hands be cleansed, that they create beautiful things. May your feet be cleansed, that they might take you where you must need to be. May your heart be cleansed, that you might hear its message clearly. May your throat be cleansed, that you may speak rightly when words are needed. May your eyes be cleansed, that you might see the signs and wonders of this world. And may your personal space be washed clean by the smoke of this fragrant plants. May that same smoke carry your prayers swirling to the heavens. Amen. So tonight we're going to have our meeting is going to be centered around understanding a little bit of the solstice. We're celebrating it tonight. And being a missiologist, I've studied cultures of the world. I've studied the traditions that came from Europe as they were developing their view of Christianity and expressing it through the North Atlantic male white societies that were there. And I know when I speak, I upset a lot of people when I say some of that many of the traditions that we do have their roots in pagan rituals. And I remember one time I said something like that about the piano to in a service, and my aunt happened to be in that service, and she jumped up and she looked at me and she said, "Casey, I'm not listening to another word you say." And she turned around and she stormed out. And a couple of her grandkids followed her out, and they saying, "Grandma, grandma, grandma, he's right." And they brought her back in and she continued to listen. But some of the hard lessons to hear about, all I said was that the piano had its start in the barroom scene, and we carry that into the church, and then a lot of the songs that we sing have the barroom tunes to them. So so the traditions that we do during this Lenten period, lighting the candles and having wreaths, those are all traditions that were developed by a culture, on even the Christian culture that came from Europe. Uh, that they're not in the Bible. You can't find lighting candles, 4 weeks before Christmas in the Bible. They were traditions that were developed so that people could prepare for the coming of Christ on a day that he wasn't actually born, and that too gets people and rubs them the wrong way. So it was a day that accommodated the pagan rituals. And it turns out that through this syncretistic way of doing it, it became a Christian expression. So taking pagan rituals and doing them enough so that they have become and have identified with a Christian expression has never been the opportunity that Native Americans has had. So the Good Medicine Way is seeking to find that balance and go back to ground zero and work with the traditions and create something that meets the needs of the Native people, rather than like we have always had to do. We've always had to worship in a white Western form. So Good Medicine Way's trajectory is to move towards creating a form of worship that, uh, as a combined group, we will work on making rituals, and new traditions that will express our heritage and bring healing to our people. So, with that, I want to turn it over to Leah, who's going to do our creation insights.
Heidi, in Albuquerque, we've lived at the place where we've been here, and it's actually a co-op, about 6 years. And there's a tree out front, a Scotch pine, and I can see it out my window as I'm looking at the sunset in the morning. And
Sunrise.
pardon?
Sunrise in the morning?
Sunrise. Did I say sunset?
Yes.
Sunrise. That is what happens in the morning. And I wrote this poem about how it reminded me, like the way the sun crept up the pine needles slowly in the morning right at sunrise, reminded me of just like a baby in a crib. We've had a few babies, and just the way they suddenly become awake in the morning and you have this little smile on their face. So that's the way the sun creeping up the pine needles reminded me. So I wrote a poem about the happy baby sun pine needle experience there. And the actually, and it was just, the tree would be there in the morning, and I'd appreciate it. And the the word Noakal came to mind one day as I was just kind of thinking about the tree, and I asked, and it sounded Navajo because it's got that slash L pronounced. And so I asked my Navajo tutor if it meant anything, and she said it meant kind of growing or moving or leaning to the side. And the tree does kind of move to the side. So I've kind of thought maybe that's the tree's name. Who knows? But as I was thinking about solstice, kind of hanging out with the tree in the backyard here, another pine, and the idea of really solstice, being the shortest day of the year, is a time for new beginnings. And I think of the no-cow tree being in the front yard with the happy baby sun coming up the needles, and the whole idea of greeting the day. Um, Certainly, Navajos greet the morning sunrise with the corn pollen or the cornmeal, and I think it's a good tradition. I want to keep up, just giving the beginning of the day with all its potential to Creator, and just having that sense of being ready. What should we do today? A lot of good potential. All right.
Any
Ready for a couple
questions?
songs?
I
Or
guess.
are there any questions or comments?
or
Did that
does-
bring up anything?
Or does somebody have a similar insight?
Any good tree stories?
Okay.
You can type them if they come up in mine.
All right. So first song we're gonna do is "Come and See" by Jonathan Miracle. And let me see if I can get the words up here. All right, that should all be working. Okay. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Come into the throne room of our God, our God. Let His presence take you higher. Let His presence take you higher. Thanks to His working hand, His presence seen throughout the land, molded from Creator's hand. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. Come and see the beauty of His holy love, His holy love. Let His wings bring you above. Let His wings bring you above to adore the risen one, to adore the risen right. And the next one we're actually gonna watch, and this is a song by Terry Wildman and his wife as Rain Song, and they wrote it and they used the illustrations from the First Nation version of the story of Jesus's birth that they wrote. What was that book called again, Leah? Do you remember?
Creator
I can't
came
remember.
down. Creator came down.
Okay, that's the song.
Mhm.
Is that the name of the book too?
Oh,
Well,
what if they'll
anyway,
show it in here?
it's the illustrations from the very First Nations version story from the Bible. He translated about the birth of Jesus, and here's the song.
The Creator came down. The angel Gabriel found a virgin so bold, a prophecy foretold. When the Creator came down, when the Creator came down, there was trouble to be found. Angry Herod had a scheme, troubled Joseph had a dream. When the Creator came down, when the Creator came down, there were angels all around, shepherds and sheep, wise men from the east. When the Creator came down, rejoice, rejoice, let heaven and earth resound. Rejoice, rejoice, Creator has come down. When the Creator came down, the story is so profound. A star showed the way to where the baby lay. When the Creator came down, when the Creator came down, all creation heard the sound. The heavens and the earth rejoiced at His birth. When the Creator came down, rejoice, rejoice, let heaven and earth resound. Rejoice, rejoice, Creator has come down. Rejoice, rejoice, let heaven and earth resound. Rejoice, rejoice, Creator has come down, down, down. Creator came 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 down.
All right.
The announcements are next.
Yeah,
Do you want to do those or should
you can.
I? All right, let me know when we have volume.
You're on.
We have volume? Okay. Hey there, everybody. We've got some announcements for you. We're starting the book of Matthew actually tonight. We finished Acts. Oh, looks like there's Heather Jim, probably Preston. We got two Heathers Jims. So they'll be reading that. And we have our women's circle every Wednesday night at 7 Mountain Time. We're going through a book called The Kindness Challenge. Quite a good book. Sounds all light and fluffy and nice Christian lady coffee table with doilies, but it's powerful, powerful stuff. The way we can use kindness to create fuel where we are on empty, and it is very much following the words of Creator Sets Free. Also, what I would love to invite everybody to is I'm having a Bardic Circle this Saturday. It's a fundraiser for Heather and Preston for auto repair. And what a Bardic Circle is probably called a story or a song circle in Native circles. But if you've got a song, poem, story, even a true life story, everyone will take like 3 to 5 minutes each time going around just to share a song or story or something. So if you've got that, or if you would like to just come and check it out, or to donate, we'll have the I think PayPal and Venmo donation places right there on my Bardic Circle event, which is on the Good Medicine Way wall and my Leah Grover wall as well. So now we are going to do reading of Creator's Word, Matthew 1.
All right.
From Heather.
Are you good, Heather, to do the reading? Is your guys' connection good where you're at?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Take it away then.
So basically we were talking about doing the scripture for Matthew for now, but still like continuing with the New Year. But definitely the scripture for tonight does a lot with the names of people. And it's just been really interesting, and I wanted to read it because of a story I have with it. When I used to work with kids, I didn't realize that the Lord was using me to share his story, but he did. And I met a kid who was like, I want you to read the Bible to me when we had to do our story times. Of course, it's after school program. We always try to read a book to them where I was at. And so um, actually they all read to themselves. So that was pretty good. But the one kid that was like, read me the Bible, I was like, okay. So that was pretty interesting. And then I started with actually Matthew 1 with all the names, and he said, like, they never cover this chapter. They never read it. Like they just skip the whole thing. And then they go down to where they say, here is the story of how Jesus was born. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I thought, well, it really is important to know where you come from. I mean, you do know your grandma and your great grandma and stories of your family. And he's like, yeah, I do. And I thought, huh. It's like, that's really interesting because I know with me and my coworker Rashawn, we always say it's important to know where you come from, and this is the ancestry of like 14 generations of Hebrew people before Jesus came. And it's a long list. I don't think I'm gonna try reading that, but it's definitely of good things. Hang on. The one thing that I want to really talk about though is the Matthew 1 verses 21. She will give birth to a son. You will name him Creator Sets Free, Jesus, because he will set his people free from their bad hearts and broken ways. And just hearing this and thinking like this is someone that's gonna be a savior to come and save. And it's really interesting because there's so much stuff going on during this time that it makes you realize like Jesus was born in a really tough time, especially with and just the beginnings, his origin story. So, and to be thinking about the books before this one too, and all that history down to this. So I think it's important too for us to understand that the Native history is also just as important as it says in the Bible, because there are things that we know about our families that and stories that we tell about our families, even during this time too. This is a time for storytelling and just to get together with family and understand where you come from. But we can't really all gather because of COVID. Excuse me. Um, and yeah, I think that's about it. I believe it's who's next. I don't know who's next.
Solstice discussion prayer by Casey.
So
All right. Very good. Thank you, Heather. It's a good reflection, especially. Uh, I think people have to take their time and look at the genealogy there. I know it's. I've never heard it read. I don't think I've ever heard it read in the church. Uh, I've heard it read on book on tape, that kind of thing, and listening to it. But some of the names are tough to pronounce too. So it does. But we got to know where you come from. You got, especially Native people, know our ancestry. I have British roots, and we can trace my British roots all the way back to the 1300s. And so I always kid people because a lot of people always come up to me, and probably you too, and they'll always say that, my grandmother was an Indian princess. And I'm going to turn that around and say, well, on my side of the family, I probably have a royalty on my side as well from England. So they found a orphan baby on the steps of the Church of London, 1300s. So with that, we'll go into discussion of the solstice. Like I said before, it's a time of reflection. And I don't know who ever thought that up, but it really, all it is an astrological thing that the Earth is on an axis of 23 point something degrees. And at this time of its rotation, it starts on its tilt towards the other direction. And the days start getting longer. And so, whoever, maybe back in the Neolithic times, is, from what I understand, is probably when they found the earliest times when people started recognizing the time change, that they started putting meanings to this time. And all it really was a time when the Earth's axis was changing and days got longer. But you know how people are, we start putting traditions to just about anything. So even on a new church start, like we're doing right now, you got to be careful about what kind of traditions you start, because once you start them, people seem to want to always do them. And I think you know that because of some of the churches you've been in. If you ever tried to change something in your church, you have to go through committee. And sometimes the committees get heated and it doesn't get changed anyways. But traditions are very powerful. And we're going to have a little bit of time here. We're going to have Leah, Brian, and Preston are going to share with us some things about traditions and stories that they have come up with. So I want to turn the time over to them right now. Take it away, Leah. Are you there, Leah?
yeah.
There we go. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, this semester I'm pursuing a BA in Native American Studies and a minor in Navajo language. So one of my classes this semester on Indigenous education and power, for my final project, I this was really an idea of Casey's. He said, "What if Native American people had like a pan-tribal Turtle Island calendar where, like when you walk into Walgreens, you see the kind of pan American cultures. It's got the Chinese, the Muslim, the Christian, the Jewish holidays, and the Fourth of July and stuff. So what would one be like that was just for the tribes of Native America? All the main events that touched them, for good or for bad. You'd have a date commemorating the Navajo Long Walk, the Cherokee Trail of Tears, the Potawatomi Walk of Death. Sometimes it's hard to pick one date because they had all these different launch dates, but you can kind of narrow it down. But you'd also have like when the first Native American Olympic athlete to win a gold medal, or when the graves and patriotation patriotation act happened, where museums have to give the artifacts back to the tribes now. I think that was in the early 90s, or when all through the, I mean, really up until the, I wonder if Richard Nixon was the first one. Before that, tribes were being terminated, land was being taken away, but Richard Nixon is the first one that comes to mind in the early 70s. And this was it actually happened during Ames' occupation of Alcatraz, that he gave the Taos Indians back the Blue Lake region. And then, in the 80s, Reagan made Code Talker Day. And trying to remember the president, was it actually Bush that gave a bunch of land back to the Havasupai, different ones? But so, what would this calendar look like? You'd have all these different dates on there that are important and pivotal for the different tribes of Turtle Island. But also, there are a few tribes that do a winter count. Some of the Plains Indians will, as winter is beginning, sit down together, pass the pipe, and kind of argue and discuss what were the two, if we just had to pick two main events of the year that are the most impactful, what would they be? And they would sketch or draw them on a big skin and animal skin, and collect this, keep going on year after year. So they'd have kind of a scrapbook, animal skin. And then for the Hopi tribe, at the winter solstice, they would have a celebration that involved the sun giving an account to them of all the main births and deaths and important events of the year. And also with the tribes up north that had the medicine wheels out in nature, made out of all the rocks on the ground. The idea is that when you stand at the medicine wheel at the solstice, that you are there with Creator at the moment of creation. And this was something that I might do in a future presentation, just to kind of, as we're remembering dates that are impactful to Native Americans, to imagine us being there at the moment of creation with Creator, also to give perspective. But that's what I'm going to say for now. What do you want to say, Brian?
Okay. Well, with the idea of focusing in on a couple specific things, there was a couple issues that relate to native things that I wanted to highlight. So the first one, this is a picture of the Navajo generation station up near the Four Corners up in northern Arizona. And it was decommissioned last year after polluting the environment for nearly 50 years. It's was established in 1974 and used a lot of resources from the land. A lot of Hopi and Navajo families were dispossessed of their land, and the environment was ruined with all the coal mining that went on, and so they had to find different place for their herds and sheep. And the power generating station and the coal mining together used something like 9 billion gallons of water a year that normally would have been drinking water for the people. And the power that this station generated did not go to any of the reservation lands. It went out to the major cities in the area. And then it also supplied one of the dams that was pumping water down to Phoenix and even Los Angeles and some other places. And uh, so after a year of being decommissioned, it was finally torn down on December 18th, um, which is a good thing for the environment and a lot of other things. Um, but it's also a mixed bag too, because of course, with any time the natives have to deal with colonizing forces, nothing's ever straight up. So the reason why the power station was decommissioned was because natural gas power generation um, got a high enough profit margin over coal that they just decided that having a coal fired plant wasn't worth it anymore. So it wasn't because people were concerned about the harm that was being done to the land, but just simply that it wasn't as profitable anymore. So where things will go in the future remains to be seen, which kind of brings me to my next thing here, if I can get the screen to play friendly. So, is that Deb Haaland, the first woman Native representative in Congress, has been tapped by President elect Joe Biden to be the new Secretary of the Interior, which gives her authority over the Bureau of Land Management. And here above the black and white picture is a picture of around that time when the dams and things were being put in place to facilitate that power generation station. And this was the Secretary of the Interior at that time. I don't have their names written down. You can look it up if you're really interested. But this is a tribal chief who was called there. And again, this is kind of the faux representation that tribal people had within the government. And he's crying because he was forced to sign off a part of the reservation that they had in order to facilitate a dam that then went on for this whole power structure that they did. Um, so with Deb Haaland now being the going to be the new Secretary of the Interior, unless something crazy happens, maybe some policies can change. But again, that is still a mixed bag because some people feel like a native person becoming part of the government is just kind of another form of assimilation. Um, and there's varying opinions about that. And I suppose it gets down to what you can actually get done. But an interesting thing with all of this is, probably the biggest event of the year has been the pandemic. And new scientific research has come out that really shows a link between infectious diseases and the environment. There's a lot of ecology science that's now being incorporated into medical science. And what they found is that the way the colonizing countries treat the environment as a commodity, as simply a resource, rather than the indigenous view of Earth as a relative who you need to be in good relationship with and walk in a good way with, that all this commodification and extraction that's been going on by the ruling governments weakens the ecosystem. And when the ecosystem is weak, the animals become weaker. And when the animals become weaker, they're more susceptible to new diseases. And when there's new diseases running through the animal kingdom, then there's more of a chance that one of those diseases will branch over and bridge over and become a human infection. So right now with coronavirus, we have the vaccine now, which is awesome, but coronavirus is just one symptom at the end of a long string of we as human people not living in good relation with our Mother Earth. And so yeah, we can take care of coronavirus now, but if we don't fix our relationship with Mother Earth, and if we don't start listening to the indigenous wisdom and knowledge about how to live in good relationship with Mother Earth, there's just going to be another coronavirus down the road a few more years. Um, so it all kind of ties together in knowing where you come from, and ultimately where we come from is from the hand of Creator who created all of us and who created us to be in relationship with Mother Earth and with the environment and the water and the land and the animals and the sky. And we need to walk in good relationships with all of our relations, if we want to be a healthy society and to move forward in a healthy way and to avoid more pandemics like we're trying to get through right now. So that's my kind of long rambling um, connections with everything from the history to the exploitation of the land and to like how we really need to get back to the indigenous knowledge. And with that, I will turn it over to Preston.
Hello. You hear me good? Good. All right. So for native culture, for my Navajo culture, we have an event where we don't. I'm not too sure if you have anything for winter solstice, but during the winter time, we tell winter stories. We have stories that we can tell. Um, we have a game called Shoot Game where you fill a couple of boots with dirt. Yes, I'm serious, with dirt. Um, so you get a yucca, yeah, the plant yucca. You bring it up and you make a ball from the root. And you during this game you try to find that ball in the different areas of. If I remember correctly, each side has four boots, two pairs of boots, and they hide the ball in the boot in the dirt within the boot. And that's why they call it a shoe game, because you're playing with shoes and you're trying to bid these yucca, these parts of yucca. And then you bid them, then you try to find it, and if you find it, it's a very very complicated game. But if you watch it, if you play it, you'll understand it. It's very fun, and there's songs that go along with it. One of my favorite songs has to sings about a turkey, and it's very. It talks about how the turkey does and what it does in its winter. And the next thing is we call string game. So many people I heard it called it's called catch cradle. When we play our string games, we're telling stories at the same time, allowing us to be able to hear and visually see the stories of creation coming to life. How the stars were made, how the arrow was made, and why it was made. It allows us to have a deeper collection of who we are as ourselves and how we work with Mother Nature. And a lot of these stories we get to hear are very, very great, because once we hear our collections of why things were like, we have stories of why the Big Dipper's in the air. We have stories of why the rest of the stars, like, it has to do with Coyote. Let's just say that Coyote can be a trickster. He can be either. He teaches us a lot about different things. And one of my favorite Coyote stories that I want to share with you guys is Coyote dealing with a group of lizards. And the group of lizards is really, really awesome, because um, they will have a flat piece of rock, this little tiny flat piece of rock, and they'll sit on top of it. And they'll, on top of the flat piece of rock, they'll go down the hill, riding down the hill with this little flat piece of rock. Coyote came across them, being able to, getting excited and watching them, and he wanted to join them. But the chief lizard was telling him, no, 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 you're not gonna be able to do it. You're gonna hurt yourself. And everyone was just telling Coyote, don't do it, don't do it. It's only made for the lizards. And when we finally get to the point where they, everyone just gives up and just allows Coyote to do his thing, Coyote gets a big piece of rock that he can finally get on, and he gets to the top of the mountain, to the top of the hill, and he starts sliding down. And he's having so much fun. And he's doing it correctly, and he's doing it with the rest of the lizards, and the rest of the lizards are following him. And all of a sudden, on one of his trips down, he hits a pebble right in front of his big flat rock. Right in front, he hits a pebble, causing him to projectile forward. When he finally hits the rock, stops for a little bit, and he's sliding down, getting scraped up, getting all bloody and everything. The next thing, his big rock sliding comes up and slides right on top of him and crushes him, making him understand that this is not his game to play. That he should have listened. And at the end of the story, the chief is like, I told you, you're gonna get hurt yourself. And he slides away as a pancake slides away into the distance and find his next victim or his next. I come up across with the story as different ways, like stay within your boundaries, stay on your ground, and stay with what you know, and listen to the people that know what they're talking about. It's like with us, with Native people, with the land. Listen to us. We know what we're doing with the land and what we're supposed to be. And if you don't, you could cause yourself to get hurt. Which is, not only are you hurting yourself, you're hurting the land too. And you're causing other people to be in harm, polluting the air. Now we have asthma. It's so exciting that we can be able to look upon and see brand new things and be able to see this great idea that the new president-elect is allowing a Native voice on the cabinet, a Native voice to be able to be heard, and so that we can be able to have change for a long time. I've been getting into Hamilton, the musical, and it's about strong revelation, strong change. But when I listen to it, that's only for white men. That's only for the people of color, because, and even in the play, it says there will be no freedom until Black people are free. Since this was taking place in the 1780s, slavery was big back then, and being able to show that freedom didn't happen then, it happened with the slavery. But now we get to understand or step in the right direction of having a unity and liberty for all, and that we won't be stepping over and be able to be crushed, and that we can help each other become more than family. Then we can understand how we can teach you or teach others how to slide on your rock without getting hurt. So, thank you.
Couple questions for you about the shoe game and Coyote. First of all, someone asks, were the shoe games given to the Navajo?
I'm not too sure about that. I just know from all my entire life. Don't know the origin of the shoe game. I never had the reason to ask that question.
Okay.
So, but it was a good question. I should ask my parents about it.
Yeah.
So wherever they came from, they've been with them for a while. It sounds like.
Yeah. The other question is from me, and whenever I hear coyote stories, a lot of times, of course, I think of the Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons. Do you think those were inspired by coyotes?
I would say yes. I
I'm
mean,
curious.
I would like to say Native people came up with something having to do with something with Wile E. Coyote. Because we have some really crazy stories about Coyote and being able to being out tricked, being out mastered about little different things. So maybe
Maybe.
I would love to look up.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
All right. Anybody else have any questions or insights of your own that tie into what we've been talking about before we get into our last song?
Any chat questions pop up or?
They're over there. I don't see anything yet.
Aha.
Yeah. So, all right. So we'll go ahead and do our closing song. But if you think of something while the song is going on, feel free to ask it when we're done singing here. We're going to do the Fly Song by Guy Peters. And this is actually a song that Preston and Heather brought to us from InterVarsity, right? Is that where it came from? You guys heard it at an InterVarsity thing?
Guy Peters.
I can't remember where you guys said you got it from. But anyway, I got a thumbs up from Heather there. So yeah. So let me get the words up here so you guys can sing along. Okay, that should do it. I might have to move them a little bit when we get near the end of the song. Child of the King, we are one tribe, we are the remnant, born of the Word, Spirit and fire, we are warriors. Breath of life fills me, brings the rain, brings the fire. Wind of life takes me, bring the change, lift me higher, and we'll fly with you. Lord, be our wings, we'll fly with you. And with the eagles sing, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah way. And with the eagles sing, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah way. Lord of the earth, bring the rain, bring the harvest. The season has come to raise the pipe to your honor. Word of life, we praise you, we bless your name, for it is holy. From the hills, Yahweh, we will sing, return to glory, and we'll fly King of Kings, holy is the Lamb. And the King of Kings, holy is the Lamb. And the King of Kings, holy is the Lamb. And with the eagles sing, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way. And with the eagles sing, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way ah hey ah, way. Okay. What do we got next?
We got a prayer time from Heather Jim.
All right. Look at that. She's already ready. All right. Take it away, Heather.
Dear Creator, thank you for allowing us to have this time together as Good Medicine Way. You have been blessing us since we started, so I pray that you continue to bless us, and thank you for all the stories that we heard tonight in honor of you, in honor of what you have done and gone through this season, and especially like through the hardships too. Like you've been through a lot in your life when you were here on earth. So I just pray for everyone who's experiencing that pain and that hardship, Lord, that you give them peace and joy during this season, and to help them understand that they are loved and that they are valued and they are very precious to you. So for those that struggle with that idea, I pray that they begin to listen to that truth, and yeah, just bless this time for us, because we have lost loved ones during the year, and it's coming to a new year. So I just pray that you continue to do your work within us and let your spirit be open and free, so that we may be able to share you with our brothers and sisters who are native but don't believe and follow you. So I just pray for those that need you and to understand you. So thank you, and yeah, bless us all in the name of Jesus, or as First Nations puts it, Creator sets free, the one that saves us all from our broken hearts and broken ways. In the name of Creator sets free. Amen.
All right. Well, thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone, tonight. And thanks for everyone that joined us tonight. It was a really great time. Remember the solstice. Many people take time because it's the darkness of the night right now. Take time to reflect on what has taken place in the past year as we get close to celebrating our new year, and think about what is forward and what we got to look forward to. A vaccine coming, lives being saved, many new things, especially with Good Medicine Way, a time when we will meet together again. That will be a very special time. So I want to send you off with a blessing tonight in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Please go out there and do your best to help change the world for Christ. We'll see you again next week. Next week, I will be speaking, and just because I'm speaking doesn't mean you can't come. So come on and share with us again. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a good night.
See everybody.
Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.